The message blinked on his phone like a quiet verdict, short, apologetic, final. His blind date was cancelled, not postponed, not delayed, just gone. He stood still in the parking lot, the late afternoon light stretching long shadows across the asphalt, feeling foolish for having shown up early, for having ironed his shirt, for having believed that maybe tonight would be different. He slipped the phone back into his pocket, exhaled slowly, and turned toward his car, until a sound stopped him, a soft, broken crying, the kind that didn't want to be heard, drifting from the far end of the lot near a parked SUV. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and moments that change lives when we least expect them, take a second to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel, Grandma Dearie. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. He hesitated, telling himself it wasn't his business, that everyone had their own problems, but the sound came again, heavier now, edged with exhaustion. When he looked closer, he saw her sitting on the curb beside the SUV, her back straight, but her shoulders trembling as if holding the weight of the world. Two small children sat close to her, pressed against the side of the car. One stared at the ground, tracing invisible shapes with a shoe, while the other leaned into her arm, silent and wide-eyed. Grocery bags were piled nearby, one tipped over, apples rolling freely across the concrete like small escapes. The man felt something tighten in his chest, a pull stronger than embarrassment or caution. He walked closer, slow enough not to frighten them, noticing details without meaning to the tired crease around her eyes, the way she kept wiping her face and then forcing herself still, the way her free hand rested protectively behind the children. She looked up when she sensed him, quickly brushing away tears, trying to gather dignity the way one gathers fallen groceries, hoping no one notices what's spilled. He didn't ask questions right away. He simply picked up the apples, placing them back into the bag, giving her a moment to breathe. The parking lot felt strangely quiet, the noise of traffic dulled, as if the world had stepped back to give them space. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady but thin, explaining without details that the car wouldn't start, that her phone battery was nearly dead, that today had already taken everything she had left. The children said nothing, they didn't need to. Their stillness spoke volumes about long days and grown-up worries pressing too early on small shoulders. He offered help in the simplest way, calling roadside assistance, offering to wait. She resisted at first, pride flickering in her eyes, but exhaustion won. As they waited, time stretched and the air between them softened. He learned that she was a single mother, balancing two jobs that barely kept ahead of rent, that today her childcare had fallen through and her boss hadn't been kind about it. The blind date he never mentioned. It felt irrelevant now, like a life that belonged to someone else. The children slowly relaxed, curiosity replacing tension. One asked about his shoes. The other watched him as if measuring whether he was safe. He smiled, answered gently, making no sudden moves. He realized how long it had been since someone trusted him with something fragile. When roadside assistance finally arrived, the sun was sinking, the sky bruised with pink and gray. The problem turned out to be simple, but relief flooded her face like a miracle. He thought that would be the end of it. A kind moment, a brief intersection of lives, then goodbye. But as she stood, brushing dirt from her pants, she looked at him with an expression that stopped him, gratitude mixed with something like disbelief. She admitted she'd felt invisible lately, like the world only saw her mistakes, never her effort. He didn't know what to say, so he said the truth, that showing up for her kids the way she did every day was something worth seeing. They parted with an awkward wave, no promises, no exchanged numbers. He drove home feeling strangely full and hollow at the same time. That night, he lay awake thinking about the parking lot, about how close he'd come to walking away, about how easily lives brushed past each other without ever touching. Days later, fate nudged again. He ran into her at a small cafe, The children seated at a corner table, coloring quietly. Recognition flickered, then warmth. This time, conversation came easier, lighter but deeper, as if the parking lot had stripped away all pretenses. Coffee turned into laughter, laughter into something like hope. Their challenges didn't vanish. Her life was still hard, his wasn't suddenly perfect, but something had shifted. They began meeting, not as a rescue or a miracle, but as two people choosing to show up. He learned patience. She learned that accepting help didn't mean weakness. The children learned that not all strangers walk away. Months passed, marked by small victories and quiet setbacks. What grew between them wasn't dramatic or loud. It was steady, built from grocery runs, school pickups, shared silences, the kind of love that doesn't announce itself but proves itself daily. If this story is touching something inside you, if it's reminding you of moments where kindness changed your path, take a moment now to like, share, and comment. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who might need them more than they know. And please, before the ending, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from or who this story made you think of. We read every single one. In the end, he realized the blind date wasn't canceled. It was rerouted. Life had led him not to a table set for romance, but to a parking lot where tears met patience, where love didn't arrive dressed for dinner, but seated on a curb beside two tired children. And sometimes the truest beginnings don't start with perfect timing, but with staying when it would be easier to leave.